guys, it's Will with Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society, another super special COVID-19 lockdown edition. I'm here at home. As you can tell, I'm losing my mind a little bit, being cooped up for all this time. And here's my beautiful display of films behind me. Since we don't have the green screen, we don't have the studio. It's just me and my phone and this tripod. So what do we have for you today? Ba-da-bum! Crime Story. 88 films released. Jackie Chan. Blu-ray. Hopefully you're not sick of me talking about 88 films releases of Jackie Chan films. It's just most of what I've acquired recently, to be honest with you, because these releases are so awesome. And I am giving my brand new multi-region Blu-ray player a hell of a workout. I got a new one like at the end of last year, and I've just been going ham on these 88 films releases because they're so good and they're so inexpensive. And this one especially, like, so I just recently reviewed their release of Dragons Forever. And in that, I talked a very little bit about some of like grumblings I've read online about people who don't like the special features. They don't think 88 films does enough special features. And to me, this is just this release is like a huge kick in the nuts to those people, because you have an interview on here with Kirk Wong, who directed this film. You have an interview with Teddy Chan, who is the screenwriter. You have an interview with Jackie Chan's longtime assistant director, who was obviously intimately involved in the making of this film. You have an interview with Mike Leader, who is like a casting director in Hong Kong and is a producer and a bunch of other things and was around during the making of this film. There's scenes that were shot for a Singapore release of this, which has so if you've seen this film, you know that Jackie Chan has a therapist, and the woman who plays the therapist is an actor from Singapore, and they shot a bunch of extra scenes with her and Jackie to put into the release for Singapore so that it would do better business over there, basically. This is a 2K restoration remaster release with upgraded audio. It is newly translated English subtitles, like everything that you would want, other than like an interview with Jackie Chan, which, as I've said in other videos, like those are pretty easy to find on YouTube. Everything that you would want out of a Blu-ray release for a film is on here. This looks incredible, so I'm going to talk about that real quick. If you've seen this film, you know that it has really bold colors, and it's a very visually aggressive film. Kirk Wong has a very aggressive style. It's a very violent movie. As you can see, it's got the 18 certificate in the UK. There's lots of shooting in this movie. There's lots of blood in this movie. There's hand-to-hand combat in this movie. There's sex scenes in this movie. There's like strip club settings. There's police station settings. There's nighttime. There's daytime. Like, if they really just go full bore, there's like huge explosions. There's a fight in the middle of a fire. And everything looks incredible. So I watched this movie with Mike. Mike runs 80s Nerdgasm. And so he and I did a movie night where I brought my Region Free Blu-ray player over to his apartment, and he has like a 70-something inch screen TV. And it just looked mind-blowing on there. Like, it was like almost like watching it in a theater, because the screen is so huge and with the lights all down and everything. Like, it's really awesome for that, as for the visual aspect of it and stuff. Because I have a couple DVD really. I think one of them is behind me. Yeah, here. So I have this, and which is like a Hong Kong DVD release, and then I also somewhere in the world I have like a US Jackie Chan 8-film box set kind of thing, and that has like a version of Crime Story in there too. And like, this is so much better. Like, I saw things in this version I'd never seen before. Like, it's just an amazing upgrade. So to talk about the physical package here, you have the R.P. O'Brien Kung Fu Bob is what is his handle. Slipcase here, which is one of my favorite, if not my favorite. Well, I said this about Dragons Forever too, but I think this and Dragons Forever are probably my favorite ones that he's done so far. And then you have just the back cover here. But I mean, come on, how freaking awesome is this? And then you have the thing that they do where you can punch in and just pull the plastic wrap off. Here we go. And then so that's the cover there, and then you have this reversible artwork where you can choose kind of how you want to. Let me see if I can get that right up there for you. There you go. So you could pick either one of those. I like the and actually this is really interesting, because you have like the blazing insanity of the fire there, and then you have these cool, almost like film noir Blade Runner-ish blues on the front here, and those are like really indicative of how stylistically diverse and bold this film is. Those contrasts in color. are really, really pronounced in this film. There's the disc, there's the booklet, and this release just does an amazing job of like the colors are so clear and so well delineated and like pristine. And I think this is a really, really great release, and I have absolutely nothing to complain about for it. Here you go. And this booklet actually does not have an essay. But there's Kent Cheng, so he's the other kind of so one of the really interesting things that I learned from watching the Blu-ray, obviously it's a Blu-ray, but the bonus features on this release is that this film was originally supposed to be about the Kent Cheng character, and it was supposed to be like a really, really dark movie, like way, way dark, because it's a pretty dark, violent, aggressive movie, especially for starring Jackie Chan. But it was originally intended that Kent Cheng would not be the villain, but the lead character. And the kind of like the storyline, Mike Leader, I think, talks about this, about how different it was supposed to be and how crazy it was going to be. And it's really interesting to think of like what it could have been. And also a lot of the interviews here touch upon the fact that Jet Li was going to be in the movie, and then he dropped out. And there's a lot of, basically everyone provides different information about what happened with Jet Li that's really interesting. So Jet Li's manager or agent or somebody he was very close to was assassinated, I think, by the Triads. And I've heard this story before, that after that, he left Hong Kong and because he's from Beijing, he went back to Beijing and he surrounded himself with like a squad of people from Beijing and brought them back to Hong Kong as basically like a protective layer around him to keep making films, because he was at that point kind of paranoid of the people in the Hong Kong film industry and like having to rely completely on them and not having his own people around him. But there's another interview where they talk about how Kirk Wong was also an actor, and Jackie Chan and Kirk Wong were in a movie together at the time that Kirk Wong was putting this together, and he and Jackie were having lunch one day, and Jackie's like, "What are you working on?" And Kirk Wong is like, "I've got this, police story or crime story thing rather." And, Jet Li was going to be in it, but he backed out, and Kent Cheng might be the main character. And Jackie's like, "Oh, that sounds interesting. Can I read the script or whatever?" So like from each person, you get like a little bit more information about how Jackie became involved. Obviously, Kirk Wong being the director, his interview is great. Teddy Chang being the screenwriter, his interview is great. You learn a lot of really cool stuff about the film from the two of them. One thing that I learned that is completely unrelated to anything, but that I found really interesting, is that Kent Cheng, I think, went to school in Croydon, which is in South London. And I actually have cousins. So my mom is English, as I may have talked about on this channel before. And I have cousins and an aunt and an uncle who live in Crystal Palace, like really, really close to the Croydon train station. And so it was like 4 or 5 years ago, I went to London to visit all my family there, and I stayed with them for a long while. So I got to know that area pretty well. So that was kind of cool to like find out that he had a connection to there and that Mike Leader does as well. So, and then you have the audio commentary, which to me is like the prize of this release. I love this audio commentary. It's Mike Leader, and then it's Arna Venema, who is a filmmaker who lives in Hong Kong. And I'm not sure where he's from. He sounds American when he speaks, but he says he's lived in South Africa. Like on the Dragons Forever release, he talks about living in South Africa as a kid. And maybe he's like one of these people who hopped around to different places and ended up in Hong Kong. I'm not really sure. I don't know that much about his background. But he's on Instagram, and he's very active, and he's very friendly. And like we've had little chats with him and stuff like that. He's a very accessible person. So so you should go and you should follow him, and you should be friends with him. We'll include, if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll include links in the description of the video to where you can find him. And Mike Leader is very active on Instagram and posts a ton of cool stuff like behind the scenes photos, clips from movies and stuff like that. So we'll include links to where you can find them. And if you're on IGTV, we'll just add them just go to the comments below the video, and you'll see we've added them. But their commentary on this is just awesome because they live in Hong Kong, they know the industry, and because they're involved in the film industry, they like watching the film sparks things in them that I find to be really, really interesting. As someone who is, I'm peripherally kind of involved in the film industry. In LA, I read scripts, I work with screenwriters, and I have friends who are, like I have a friend who works in production at Fox, and I have like another friend who works for the Food Network, and like So like I know a lot of people in the industry, and I kind of work around the fringes of the industry, and so that stuff is really really interesting to me. So to give you an example of that, just in the first scene, Arna Venema is like, man, it must have been really hard to get the permits to film this scene, and then Mike Leader's like, well, this is actually near Jackie Chan's office, which is an industrial park, and they filmed it at night, so they probably didn't really need permits. And like there's a scene in a police station, they're like, this scene is really interesting because when they walk into the building, they're in this neighborhood, but then when they're in the office and you can see those buildings behind them, they're in this neighborhood. And so they obviously like, combine these locations. And I watch obviously a lot of Hong Kong movies. And so you kind of get to know the landscape, the physical landscape of Hong Kong. And in the audio commentary, Mike Leader talks about buildings, and they're buildings that I've seen in so many movies, but they name the buildings and they say what's in the buildings, and I'm like, oh, that's what that is. So it's like really cool. I've never been to Hong Kong, and so I basically, when I was in college, I was studying like Chinese history and mythology and stuff like that, and I was studying Japanese like art history and stuff like that, and then I had to pick a language track because for my junior year I was going to go abroad, and it's like, okay, are you going to go to Hong Kong or China, or are you going to go to Japan? So I had to pick a language track, and I picked Japanese for various reasons. And so because of that, I ended up going to Japan. I lived in Japan for a year. I've been involved in a lot of Japanese stuff, and so I never actually ended up going to Hong Kong. And so to me, like, these movies are my trip to Hong Kong essentially, and they have been since I was in high school. Like, first Hong Kong movie that I really watched and loved, I mean, obviously I had seen a bunch of Jackie Chan movies before that, but like the one that really transported me there and made me kind of like fall in love with East Asian cinema was Fallen Angels, the Wong Kar-wai film, and I really put me there. And so this film, with the 2K like remaster and everything, again, it's the same kind of thing, but then with the Mike Leader Arna Venema audio commentary, it's really cool because it's almost like having a guide to take you around these places that you've been 1,000 times in the movies, but you don't really know like what they are, right? So it was really, really cool. It was a great audio commentary track, and I'm really glad that I watched it, and I highly recommend it to anyone who checks this release out. So, I mean, this is just a great release, like the other 88 Films ones are, and I think you should just go and buy all their stuff and marathon them. But the movie is Crime Story, directed by Kirk Wong, starring Jackie Chan and Ken Chang and various others. This is based on a real-life kidnapping case. I'll include a link to the review that we did along with 80s Nerdgasm. That was pretty recent to this. And then also, obviously, like where you can buy this release and all that kind of stuff. So my name is Will. You've been watching Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society, and we will see you next time.